The battle between Halle Bailey and her ex-boyfriend and baby's father, DDG, is heating up as he files to stop her from bringing their son out of the country. She's now responding.
Here we go now.
Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your #1 source for pop culture news in music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. We reported on this Halle Bailey and DDG situation a couple of weeks ago in regards to her filing for legal custody. And as you know, she was granted that temporarily until they have their hearing. Now things are heating up because DDG is trying to prevent Halle from taking their son out of the country. And she's responding. And now there's also text messages and all kinds of things that are coming out. And of course, we have a lot of people sharing their opinions. But let me give you the details of what we know so far. According to TMZ, DDG has filed an emergency motion to stop Halle Bailey from taking their infant son out of the country, claiming she poses an imminent emotional and psychological risk to the child. And this is where he's sharing text messages from a year ago. The rapper filed docs Wednesday morning asking for an emergency hearing because he says that Halle has made plans to fly with their son Halo to Italy on Saturday. DDG says that the court shouldn't allow this because Halle isn't mentally healthy enough to care for herself and their child, and he worries about what she might do if she leaves the court's jurisdiction. So he wasn't saying that when she filed to have legal and physical custody? But okay. DDG provides examples of alleged conduct that he thinks is troubling, claiming that Halle once took his GUN and left the house without telling him where she was going. DDG alleges that he ultimately found her outside just holding the weapon. He says that she was pregnant when the incident went down. And here's the thing, because I followed their relationship, although not reported on it, and even before they had a child together, there were cheating rumors. There was like a messy situation. And a lot of the aunties and the uncles in the comment section were like, girl, stay away from this man. You have too much going on with your life. And then when she had the baby, a lot of people had opinions about that. At this particular point, she was pregnant. It is what it is. Girl, you like it, we love it. This is what I've always said. You have to be mindful who you decide to have children with because you're going to have to deal with that person for at least 18 years. As I said before, DDG provided multiple receipts. DDG alleges that Halle once tried to have an abortion behind his back, but says that she ultimately changed her mind and decided to not go through with it. On another occasion, 2 months after Halo was born, DDG claims that Halle sent a series of alarming text messages threatening to unalive herself and suggesting that their infant son Halo might also be harmed. Bailey has accused DDG of abusive behavior in the past, including once when she alleged that he slammed her face into a steering wheel and chipped her tooth. DDG tells a different version of events, claiming that he had to pick up Halo for his custodial time with his son, but Halle jumped into his back seat when he did, demanding they come up with a formal co-parenting schedule. DDG alleges that she became increasingly agitated and started jumping from the back seat to hit him, and her momentum carried her forward and she smacked her head on the steering wheel. In fact, DDG says that he was actually on the receiving end of abuse by Halle, including photos of a large cut on his hand in the docks, which he says that Bailey caused. DDG is asking the judge to block Halle from taking Halo to Italy. He also wants sole legal and physical custody of their son, or if he's not granted sole custody, that he wants all custodial exchanges facilitated by a third party. So where were these responses when this happened a few weeks ago, if he had his own receipts? According to TMZ, Halle Bailey is responding, but before we get to the response, let me just read to you what the court documents are saying. And shout out to our friends over at the Neighborhood Talk, because what do we do here? Always cite our sources. In the court documents, Tanya Granberry, his mother, DDG's mother, says, I, Tanya Granberry, declare and state as follows. I am the mother of Daryl Dwayne Granberry Jr., the respondent in the above entitled matter. I make this declaration based on my personal knowledge, and if called as a witness, I could and would testify competently to the facts stated herein. I reside in Los Angeles County, California. I am closely involved in my son's life, as in my fiance, George Charleston, who also serves as my son's driver. Both George and I were involved in identifying and locating multiple Apple AirTags that were secretly placed in Daryl's vehicles. The first AirTag was discovered in June of 2023 in Daryl's Maybach. Daryl called me that night stating that the petitioner, Halle Bailey, had shown up uninvited to a movie theater in Beverly Hills where he was attending a film with a female friend. Petitioner called me directly that night, angrily stating that she knew Daryl was at the movies and made threats to F him up. George and I drove to the theater out of concern for Daryl's safety. When we arrived, we saw Petitioner outside the theater, visibly upset and attempting to confront and physically fight the woman he was with. I personally intervened to help de-escalate the situation. The next day, George, Daryl, and I thoroughly searched the Maybach and found an Apple AirTag hidden beneath the back seat. So I guess they assumed, like, how does she know where I was? Also in 2025, if this really happened and Halle Bailey, the Little Mermaid, was doing this in these streets, you're telling me no one recorded it? Okay. The discovery clarified for us all to how the petitioner had tracked Daryl's location to the movie theater. A few days later, George received similar AirTag alerts while driving Daryl's Cadillac Escalade. Although we initially could not find the device, the alerts persisted. We searched the vehicle repeatedly and eventually found a second AirTag in the back of the Escalade. I'm not normalizing this behavior. However, if he's been accused of cheating on her before, I know, I always try to bring it down to everyday people because we forget that celebrities are everyday people. Some of y'all have done this, and with the invention of the AirTag, y'all have taken y'all situations to another level, tech level. So I'm sure some of you have done this. So I'm not really judging Halle. I'm sort of like, damn, Halle, you were down bad in this relationship. You should have let this man go a long time ago. Approximately 2 to 3 weeks later, yet another AirTag was found in the Escalade, this time concealed inside a vitamin bottle. Again, George's phone was receiving AirTag tracking alerts while driving. After persistent searching, Daryl located the device hidden in the bottle. Here's where I'm confused. George is the stepfather and the driver. How is he receiving AirTag alerts if he is not the owner of the AirTags and this was something that Halle set up? I'm not understanding. I might be a little confused in regards to the story here, but I have AirTags. I'm the only one that has control over those AirTags and where they're located. And only my phone, unless they have a joint iCloud account. Possible, but interesting. So after persistent searching, Daryl located the device hidden in the bottle. A fourth AirTag was found in April of 2024 after the birth of Daryl's son, Halo. I personally found this device inside the baby's diaper bag. Well, that makes sense to put it in the diaper bag, right? You have a kid. I know parents that put it in there. Okay, I'm making sense out of this stuff, but I'm trying. I'm playing devil's advocate. Hidden underneath the internal cardboard lining, this device was a different model, one commonly marketed for use with pets. I took a photograph of this AirTag, which is attached to the Declaration Exhibit 6. Each of these discoveries involved Daryl, George, and me working together to locate the devices. George would receive alerts, and we would search the vehicles until AirTags were physically recovered. We also have to remember she came out after Halle had filed these legal custody situation. Her username is, I forgot what her name was, like, DDG's mother or something like that. And everyone was like, don't you have other kids or something? I forgot what it was. But anyway, each of these discoveries involved Daryl, George, and me working together to locate the devices. In January of 2025, George and I moved into Daryl's home. While helping clean and organize the house, I discovered a box of unused AirTags in a drawer in Daryl's bedroom. These had been left behind by petitioner, who had lived in the home on and off both before and during her pregnancy. She moved out shortly after the baby was born in December of 2023. The box of AirTags remains in Daryl's possession. The repeated placement of these tracking devices establishes a clear and deliberate pattern of unauthorized surveillance and stalking of Daryl by petitioner. These actions caused Daryl significant emotional distress and concern for his safety, particularly given the threatening behavior I personally witnessed at the movie theater incident. I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true and correct. Executed on June 3rd of 2025 in Los Angeles, California. This could have been their preparation because, as you know, they have a court hearing coming up in regards to the custody. So they've probably been sitting and gathering with an attorney on what is the legal approach that we should take when handling the situation so that we can, because he is trying to get full legal custody. However, he says that he's also open to a third party, which says to me, if you really were concerned about Halo's safety with Halle, you would want physical custody, period. And you would have sought physical custody before she did, if you really were concerned. But okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to try and see his side because we got text messages to go through. They also share photos of these air tags. One is the pet air tag that's in the collar. I didn't even know they had that, but I also don't have a cat. Let's move on from there. There is text messages that DDG shared in these court documents. This is dated in March of 2022. I think the date is important because now we are in 2025. We're talking about 3 years later. Damn, she's been with this man that long? So Halle says, okay, I have to say there are a lot of errors in spelling. But I guess when you're mad, you're not thinking about spelling. In all caps, she says, answer the effing phone. And then she says it again, answer the effing phone. I'm going to try one more time. If you don't answer, it's over forever. I'm not playing, Daryl. That's it. Then he responds, I just want to be left alone, please. She says, I'm calling for help. I have a knife? She then says, I'm calling for help, but why don't you care, do you? But I guess she meant to say, but you don't care, do you? Then she says, okay. And then he's like, have a knife for what? She then says in some more text messages on March 21st of 2024. So we were just talking about 2022. Now this is March. So he had to really dig in his text messages in order to find this proof against Halle. She says, this is proof. You leaving me hanging as a mother. You don't step up when I need you to. I'm begging you. I just found out you slept with Lala in Mexico. Not the Lala, right? Oh, I mean, there's a big age difference. It could be another one. I'm going to unalive myself tonight. My son will not be around for it. I hate you forever. You can have him and let her be his mom. Ooh. He says, I can't believe you're acting like this. She says, you put your penis inside of her in Mexico. Wow. This is what you call crashing out. But she's crashing out. And again, I always bring this back. I've never had this experience, but I have plenty of girlfriends, and I know some of y'all, because some of y'all share this stuff on social media, that crash out like this on social media too, when you find out that your man has been cheating on you. So for me, I'm not saying that we should normalize this behavior. What I'm saying is that I'm not really shocked that she's crashing out after she found out that he's cheating. This is in 2024. And remember, early in their relationship, there were cheating rumors too. I don't know if they're rumors, but there was cheating situations then. So in some more text messages that are more recent that he shared, that DDG shared in these court documents, and these are from May of last year. So it's about a year ago. Halle says, I just thought that we'd do what I wanted to do today since it's Mother's Day. But if you really want to go, you can. I'll just go home and pack. Hello? Question mark? I guess he wasn't responding. So he finally responds. Let me see, because she sent this around 5:35 p.m. He finally responds at 10 p.m. So these dates and times are important. I'm guessing Mother's Day, he didn't respond. This is last year. I believe they were still together. If you don't come back here, I'm going to call the police. I don't want you to do something stupid. Huh? Because remember, the text message that we're looking at, we're not talking about when she said she was going to unalive herself. Because when she said she was going to unalive herself, That was from 2022, right? Look, let me look at these dates. Hold on. Oh no, this was 2024. This is 2024. She said this in March of 2024. But now we're talking about May of 2024. He says, if you don't come back here, I'm going to call the police. I don't want you to do something stupid. Then he says, I'm going to give it 5 minutes. You have a son. I know you took my GUN. Then there's nothing. And then he says, that GUN has no safety. So these are text messages that he shared. I don't know if there was more within the court documents, but this is what I'm getting from our friends over at the Neighborhood Talk. But to me, it's sort of like you jump from 2022 to 2024 in 2 months in between. Okay. But you didn't feel that maybe at that particular time that you should have taken action for legal custody. But now you're concerned because she's going out of the country with your son. I'm just asking questions. Just asking questions. Now, it seems as if Halle Bailey is responding. So this is what TMZ is reporting. They said Halle Bailey has filed to deny DDG's request and instead grant her permission to take their son out of the country so that she can work. Halle is also requesting orders to stop DDG and his family and friends to stop posting about their son. Because that's been the other thing. Since she filed for this legal custody, some of his fellow Twitch people have been blasting her on social media. She's asking that this litigation and Halle on all platforms. Halle also points out that DDG waited until today, June 4th, to file a request to block her from traveling and ask for new custody orders when he and his attorneys have ignored all of her efforts for him to have monitored visits with their son since the issuance of the TRO on May 13th of this year. So this is why I was saying I feel that it's interesting timing. The minute that she's about to leave the country, now all of a sudden she's this bad mother. She's unhinged. He's worried about their child's safety. Where was all of this when she filed for the TRO originally, the restraining order? Where was this then? Because that should have been your response. Court, I don't feel like my child is safe with her. And here are the examples. It sounds like you decided and you've been gathering information for the last month, almost a month, and now you want to respond. And are you responding for what? Because remember, he's also saying, oh, I want sole legal custody, but if not, I'll take a third party to intervene. Okay. I don't know. We're going to have to continue to follow this story. This is just sad because these are two young people, too successful in their own right. And now they have a child that's stuck in between the two of them, and they have to be able to co-parent on some level. They've got to figure this out. This is why you, again, have to be mindful who you decide to have children with. As always, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on this latest update, this latest chapter in the saga that is Halle Bailey and her baby's father, DDG. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Thanks for watching.
Here we go now.